Hi, I'm odeean. Today I'm looking at He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe. Alright, admittedly this is a little bit out of my usual scope of toy collecting. Not to say that I've never bought any He-Man figures before. I mean, I do have this sorry looking fellow who goes all the way back to the days when I had bags and bags of figures and, you know, Battlecat, everything, Castle Grayskull. I still have Castle Grayskull, but this is one of the only He-Man figures that's modern that I own. My motivations for buying this figure are basically Mattel have put up a pre-order for this huge Castle Grayskull to come out at the end of 2013, and I thought that'd just make a really interesting display in my living room. So it's not really got anything to do with me collecting He-Man, more so I thought that I needed a He-Man and a Battlecat to pose with that castle for that display. So here they are. I have bought, just as a comparison, the 2000 series He-Man when that came out. Again, just He-Man. I didn't collect the whole line because I do have a soft spot for He-Man, especially Battlecat with He-Man. So here you can see, as a comparison, that the 2000 series Battlecat is much smaller than the classics He-Man from Mattel. I'm not entirely sure when this classics He-Man came out. When I bought it, it said it was a second reissue. So time-wise, I don't know what that means, but I do know, I think that the line started in 2009. So there's at least 9 years between these two versions. Interestingly, though, the figures of He-Man are very similarly sized. So poor Battlecat in this 2000 series He-Man is really slaving away carrying such a big lanky dude on him. Also, let's pull He-Man off, have a look at Battlecat a little bit later. But as I said, these are roughly the same size. Some focus happening. But very different in appearance. So something wrong with the way this old 2000 series He-Man looks. His neck is hunched forward and his shoulders are just not sculpted well in comparison to the other muscles in his body. And his head looks a little bit small and his waist looks a little bit narrow. So even when this first came out, I thought there was something wrong with it. I bought it to have the figure, but I didn't really like it all the way back then. Probably one of the reasons I didn't collect the line as a whole. So let's put him aside, because that's not what we're interested in today, and just have a quick look at Battlecat before we move on, so you can know what I'm talking about. So I love Battlecat. I like the character, I like the way it looks, and this was a half decent head sculpt, and even the body is sculpted pretty well. But again, this had some problems. So the 2000 series had a gimmick where the upper jaw moves when the paw moves, and no animal bites by moving its upper jaw. So I always found that to be a bit ridiculous. So putting that one aside, let's get to the main event. So here is He-Man, the aforementioned most powerful man in the universe. I mean, I love the title. The title says it all. I would kill to have a title like that, most powerful man in the universe. He looks very similar to how I remember his original 80s toy looking. He has all the same get-up. He's got the furry boots, the furry undies, the shield, red detailing. The shield pegs on around the wrist, like this. Reasonably tight. It does rub on the painted area here, so the more you use it, the more this paint is going to come off. I've been made aware that the bodies and parts for Mattel figures have been made from recycled black plastic and totally covered in paint. I'm not sure if that counts for older figures like this. I mean, I said it is a reissue, so whether or not he's fully black, I couldn't tell you. I haven't had any scratches appear on him yet, so I'm hoping that he's actually got coloured plastic and not just black plastic painted over, but I guess time will tell. On the back, he has a holder where you can stick his various bits and pieces. including his axe. Again, pretty similar to the axe He-Man originally had. I don't have the original any longer, so I can't show you a comparison, but it's nicely painted on the edges to give it a sharp appearance. He-Man comes with his signature sword, although it looks a little bit off. Maybe I'm getting confused with Shearer's sword, but I thought that there was some other detail here. It's probably just in my mind. He comes with a second copy of the sword, and this is to combine, because originally the sword was split into two halves, and He-Man had to figure out how to get them back together. Not being a collector of the whole line, I don't know who comes with the other half of this sword. I'm going to take a stab in the dark and guess Skeletor? Not really sure. I won't be using that, having any need for that. So I'm glad that he does come with the whole sword. The sword easily fits into his hand, so the fingers just flex a little bit to allow the handle to pass through. Then he's got a good firm grip, so you can see that can hold his whole weight there. His fingers aren't articulated in any way. As far as posability is concerned, He-Man has a ball on his head, so you get 360 around and a little bit of movement in every direction. His shoulder is 360 in this direction, as well as about 90 degrees outwards. It's not on a ball, it's a little peg that goes in there. We have a bicep swivel. We have elbow, but it's pretty limited. That looks to be about maybe 70 degrees, let's say. A wrist swivel, an ab crunch, a rotation at the waist. The thighs look like they're on a ball, but they're not. Again, we just get in and out. So about 90 degrees outward swing and backwards and forwards. And the total range of backwards and forwards, if you look at that, when you add it up, is about 90. We've got around 90 degrees at the knee. We can get some kind of swivel at the thigh, the ankle backwards and forwards like this, as well as an ankle tilt. So all in all, very average articulation. I'm not bought in to buying every figure, so I don't have to prop this line up with any kind of praise. So I'm going to say it looks really good, but a bit disappointing on articulation. I would have thought that a modern $35 action figure line would have had double jointed knees, double jointed elbows at the least, and with the stuff we get out of Japan, I've started to become used to the shoulder shrugging forward, and all of that is lacking on this figure. And from what I understand, every Masters of the Universe Classics figure is the same amount of articulation as this, so not too crash hot on the articulation. I said I don't have any other figures, which is true, but my daughter has been getting these figures, all the girls, as Santa Claus has been bringing those to her. So she has Froster, she has She-Ra, Princess of Power, and the Star Sisters, I believe they're called. So from what I can see on those, the level of articulation is all very similar to He-Man here. He does look very good as a shelf piece. Just looking at that, I'll hold him still. Been fidgeting a bit here. Let's hold him still. Very handsome fellow. I wish I looked like that. I've got all this mass, except it's shifted from here into this area. Let's look at the back. Big lats. So very nice looking. Let's move on to Battlecat. Okay, I should mention, these figures come separately. I bought them at the same time, but you do have to buy them separately. I paid $35 for He-Man, but funnily enough, I also only paid $35 for Battlecat. I can't remember, it might have been a sale or something at BBTS. So I felt $35 was a pretty good deal, although the shipping did add up because he is a bit weighty. So we'll start off with the armor. If you look, the armor is it's fantastically done. The sculpt is, without question, amazing on his armor face there, and the detailing is pretty good too. So he's even got orange paint in the eyes to make the eyes pop out a bit through the armor. I like that. The only way that could have been improved would be if the eyes were actually see-through, but I think they've gone the right way, making it painted instead of cutting little holes. Detailing on the horns. The helmet can come off like this. The back piece of armor is kind of floating on the toy. It's not connected to the green body in any way, but it has this belt strap that looks like it could come off. I almost want to pull it out here, but oh, it does. There we go. I was thinking it was glued, but I was actually wrong. So it's just one piece, but again, very, very nicely done. There are these little strap things here, which are sort of riveted on, and they look as if it can open up to fit the foot of He-Man, but they're glued or molded shut so his foot wouldn't fit in there, and that's a little bit weird. I thought that if they would have put this section on, then his feet definitely would have been able to fit there, but it's not enough space to do that. Getting rid of that. Now, Battlecat has much more posability and articulation than I had thought he would have. So at the waist here, he's got the ability to stretch out like this and then to crunch in on himself like this. That also has rotation. The neck, which impresses me a lot, can do this upwards reaching like that, and it can also curl back down like this. The head has a little bit of wiggle in every direction and rotation. It feels like it's on a ball. I think it is. On the jaw, we have a correctly articulated jaw. Let's look at that. All the way closed, and then open. Makes me almost want to get the Cringer that comes with who does that come with? The Queen, I think. Look at his profile. Again, a very handsome cat, very fierce. The ears have been molded in a squashed down. That's how they accommodate the helmet. So, I mean, they could have molded them up and had a little hole poking through, but I like the way that they've molded it in a downwards position to accommodate the armor going on. It's the best choice, I think. Paint is very good in the mouth area. If I can just give you a closer look, you can see that they've done his lips in black and with a creamy kind of white teeth. Paintwork is pretty nice indeed. No gradients on the paint, no kind of dry brush work or anything like that, but as a toy it's a pretty decent level. The arm or foreleg can go backwards and forwards, and it has a little wiggle in and out, rotation at the elbow and backwards and forwards at the elbow. The feet can move backwards and forwards and rotate. The back part, the back leg, the hind leg, has this cat-like extra joint in it, and other than that is the same, although its wiggle is just slightly and it's not really a joint, it's just flexibility of the plastic. The tail is also jointed. Would have been nice to have another joint here, I think, maybe a ball so you could get some side-to-side swishing like that going on. Just give you a steady look around of him. Okay, let's pop this armor back on. He-Man rides Battlecat in a very easy to use fashion. He just pops on like that and he's pretty rock solid. That's good enough for having a high play value. He's not going to fall off on your display, and they look really good together. So my final thoughts, let's move back a little bit. My final thoughts on these guys are, I definitely enjoy having them. I don't want to buy into a whole new line, but that's not really got to do with my opinion of the line. It's got to do with my lack of money. So If you like the line, I highly recommend going out and grabbing He-Man and Battlecat. This has been my video review. I'm Odeean. Thanks for watching.